Hi, Cavin.
Hi, how's it going?
Fine. How's it going with you?
I'm good, good. Glad to be here.
Cavin Costello is the co-founder of the Ranch Mine, an architecture firm based in Phoenix, Arizona, best known for modern homes that connect people to nature and each other. Since 2010, Cavin, a past recipient of the AIA's Future of Architecture Award, has led the design of over 250 projects across 4 continents, earning international recognition and national awards for his work that reimagines what it means to live well in dynamic, natural environments. Um, and so we were talking a little bit about your project that you have in Sedona. Do you want to elaborate on that? On
Sure.
that, what I think is a great idea because I had a similar idea and everybody shot it down several
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, happy to. So yeah, it's we're doing basically a showcase house in Sedona. So it's actually gonna be 2 homes. Technically, we're calling it Fox and Kid. There's a sort of big house and a little house. And the idea came to us from, doing years of residential architecture and having potential clients ask, can we walk through one of your homes? And the answer typically was no. People live there, and we don't want strangers coming through their homes, and they're very private people and all that sort of stuff. It's really hard to get back into homes. And so we started thinking, what would it look like if we could create a space where people could experience our work firsthand? Not just like a showroom or through final photos or any of that kind of stuff, but actually living in the space and experiencing what a full day, multiple day kind of cycle would be living in the space. So we decided to take the plunge in 2023 and bought a property in Sedona, and we've been working on building it or designing and building it over the last 2 years. And we're hoping to open it up to the public probably in October this year. Yeah.
Okay. I hope I get an invitation for that.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's so true because I'll have people say, "Oh, can I see the project?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then I have to coordinate it with the people, because I don't. I mean, a lot of I don't have ones that I have to sign NDAs for or anything, but um, but I mean, still, just having anybody go through somebody's house, every time, and then you have to coordinate. Some people, it's like, "Oh, I can only go on this day," and then you have to try to coordinate like 2 projects, to kind of do these walkthroughs, and people have to, clean their homes and everything else. And yeah, it's just, it's difficult. And then when people sell the project, right,
Right.
then you have like a new owner that maybe doesn't want people trooping through their house.
Exactly. That you don't have a
Yeah.
relationship with, and even walking through a house, it gives you a little bit of the idea of the house, but not really, because it's at like a 30-minute window on a certain day. You're not doing anything in that house. You're not actually living in it. You're just kind of walking through it and looking at it, like, which is great for, maybe quality of construction and detailing. You can kind of see some of that stuff, but you can't really get the full experience of the space, which is ultimately what we're designing for, right? We're designing
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that sort of experiential outcome. And so
Yeah.
so that was the incentive for what we've been doing. And then it's also um a design lab for us a little bit. It's a lived in case study where we can get data and information from it, because a lot of times, again, with homes, we're not monitoring, what's the energy use like, what's the water use like, all that kind of stuff that we're designing for, but we're actually not able to really monitor in private homes. We'll be able to monitor this.
Yeah.
um and then also just to be our own client and just see the
Yes.
process from that point of view of what it's like to go through a relatively custom new build home that takes years and has all the sort of stressors of financing and construction issues like that everyone else goes through, but be on the sort of client side of it as well.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I added on to the house. But I mean, for years, and like, I mean, my late ex-husband was also an architect, right? And people are like, "Oh, did you, do you have?" And clients are, "Oh, do you guys have a great house?" And I'm like, "No, we don't."
Yeah.
I said, "We have a house that was supposed to be the 5-year house, and then, now that was in 1999, right? It was supposed to be the 5-year house in 1999, and we're still in that house." And
Of course.
and we had to add on for like a medical. condition. I mean, that's the reason why we kind of had to add on to the house, and then, and then we did it. And I mean, it was pretty inexpensive. And then the latter part, it was right when COVID, shut down. We were still kind of doing it. And then we had to hurry up and get it done, using, people that, it was right to do the drywall, right, to do the insulation. It's like, okay, we had to have like, a couple people that knew each other in there for the insulation, for the drywall. It was like a father and his two sons that hung it. And then one guy that I had used for another project, he had a business. And then he taped and finished everything, and so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I would also love to do what you're doing, and I think we'd make way better Airbnbs than some of the Airbnbs that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that it's like, I don't want to stay in a place that seems like it's like somebody's house,
Right.
where it's, yeah. And I mean, it's like, it'll smell like somebody's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is designed almost like a private resort, essentially, is the
Yes.
sort
Yeah.
of intent of it. And yeah, we had done a development for sale that we were part owners of, maybe 2016-ish, I think.
Uh-huh.
And completely different environment now. It's part of the reason we wanted to do it again too, is because the building environment, the regulatory environment, everything was so different just less than 10 years ago. This
Mhm.
post-COVID time frame, with such a volatile market, and with tradespeople and materials and everything that's going on, it's so different. So being able to experience that again, post COVID, and with all the sort of issues that we have to deal
Mhm.
with nowadays, it's been illuminating in a variety of ways.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
My dad. So my dad went to school to be a civil engineer. He ended up transitioning towards sales and running a company ultimately, but he was a civil engineer for a little while and always passionate about designing and building and that kind of stuff. And so, right before I was born, he designed and built the house that I grew up in Connecticut. And the blueprints of the home were framed and up on the wall, like directly where I would sit at all my meals at the table. So every day for 18 years, from age 0 up, I'm just staring at blueprints every single day. And he also had a variety of books in his library of how to design your own house and construction stuff. From referencing that when he designed and built the house that we grew up in. And so that was a huge part of it. And then he just generally had a passion for architecture, particularly historical architecture. We lived in New England, so we travel all around to, buildings from the 1600s, 1700s, et cetera, and all the history involved. And he was always kind of interested in that. So I think that was, I have a, note from, being 5 years old, saying like, I want to be an architect kind of thing. So it was kind of there for a way, went away a little bit in middle of, you're not really caring about it probably too much when you're
Yeah.
11, 12, 13, but that kind of came
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
figure out what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to be a forest ranger at one point, and they're like probably in ninth or 10th grade. And I was always going, I didn't know, I was also going to art school at that time. And the, the teacher who also taught at the college that it was, but so this was like the Saturday art teen class. So then I decided, I was in Girl Scouts, and they had like this thing that you could learn how to be, a ranger or whatever. And I said I was going to be a ranger, and he would ask my classmates like, oh, is she in the woods this weekend or whatever? It's like, why is she doing this? And then he said that I should become an artist. And I said, well, I just feel like I'm going to be limited if I'm an artist. It's like, where am I gonna, how am I gonna get a job? Like, what exactly,
Right.
maybe commercial art. But I mean, like, look at now, like commercial art is so, it's like so different, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah. So and then where did you go to college?
Northeastern University in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, which was great. It's a co-op school. So what's fun about that is, after your second year, you do 6 months of full-time work and then 6 months of school. alternating. So what's great about that is one, you sort of get the perspective of what the real world is sort of like and like what you're doing in an office, which obviously, as you know, is completely different than what you're doing in school. But then you kind of get to go back and forth. So you get
Yeah.
that creative, exploratory, but then you kind of come back with, and then every other student's also going out to different places to work. So they're kind of bringing back what they've learned. And it really makes it an interesting studio dynamic. Plus you're getting paid,
Mhm.
which is great, helps with your college finances. And then lastly, with IDP, or I think it's AXP now, you're recording hours
Yeah.
for your licensure
Yeah.
before you can get out of school. So it's
Yeah.
I loved it. It was a great experience.
Yeah. I went to Cal Poly Pomona and they had 1,000 hours that you had to have for Cal Poly Pomona. Like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo didn't have that requirement, but because Cal Poly Pomona did. And so, you had to have 1,000 hours of work experience before you were allowed to graduate. So that was that was good. And then I have two friends that husband and wife that teach at Northeastern now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Ann Sussman and Chris Schaffner. He's an engineer and she's an architect, but she's more into like the spatial eye tracking.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I don't recognize those names, but it's probably 15 years ago that I was
Yeah.
there. So,
Well, yeah. And I think they've only been teaching like the last 10 years or whatever. She got her architecture degree later. I mean, she didn't get her architecture degree until she was around 40.
oh, wow.
And then she graduated and she had a planned C-section for like the next day after she graduated. And then 2 years later,
She's an efficient person. Yeah.
yeah, there was another story, but I won't even go. I won't even go into that about her husband and everything. But yeah, that was her like third degree too.
Wow.
So what are three classic buildings that you like and why?
Yeah, you sent me that question, and it's been interesting to think about because there's so many. And so I was trying to think, okay, how can I narrow it down? Because there's so many.
And it changes.
It changes all through your life.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, just okay, what if I were to just narrow it down to Arizona?
Okay.
There's a ruin, Wukoki. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but Wukoki Pueblo in northern Arizona. Part of there's a state park up there. And that pueblo is part of, there's a variety of pueblos in the sort of national monument area. And that one was incredible. Went up there a couple of years ago. It's on top of a large like sandstone outcrop, and it sort of emerged organically. It's like stacked up from this rock and has like a 3-story tower. And it just is how it sort of is. It's fully blending in with the rock, but also very strong in its form and really interesting. And there's just the tiny windows and just panoramic views of the surrounding high desert up there. It's really beautiful place to go. And so that's one. The Chapel of the Holy Cross in Sedona. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I've not been to Sedona yet. I'm gonna go. I'm actually.
there you go. That's something. It's very, very close to our rental. You could basically almost.
For Nancy Weinman. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm supposed to go see her this summer when she's, So Nancy Weinman said I can come and stay with her. So I'm going to see Sedona for the first time.
Yeah. Sedona by itself is absolutely gorgeous. And then that chapel is spectacular. It's just so minimalistic and powerful at the same time and just strips everything down and really very, very cool. And then the third one, Phoenix Public Library, Will Bruder's building. I think Wendell Burnett was also a part of that. I think he was the project architect when he worked under Will. And just a great building, great public building. It's very modern but rugged. It's, they didn't have much of a budget at the time. Phoenix wasn't that big of a city even at the time. It was mid-90s when it was built. And the reading room, they put the reading room on the top of the building. So it's on the high story. And in Phoenix, as you know, you can kind of see once you get above like 15 feet, you can kind of see everywhere. So you get amazing views, and they have these columns, these sort of candlestick columns that light up on the summer solstice. So when the sun hits through, there's like these little skylights. They kind of light the candles. It's like a birthday for the library. It's very cool.
Yes. And then your people are allowed to go in
Yeah,
and
they
it's
do like a
big,
whole
thick,
event.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, they do a whole
Yeah.
event. Wendell will often
Yes.
speak there at that time. Will sometimes does as well, and
Uh-huh.
it's very very cool. Very cool building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's coming up then, right?
yeah.
The next week?
Next week, I guess. Yeah, and or a little bit over a week. Yeah, I
Yeah. Is it the 21st or something?
think it's the 21st. Yeah,
Okay.
or maybe the 22nd. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Mesa Verde and Bandelier, and then the two that are close by. The two that are close by, north of which two are those?
North, close by to
The Phoenix,
Phoenix. Oh, there's
north of Phoenix, off the
yeah, there's one
17.
in Camp Verde. There's one Montezuma Castle.
Yes, yeah, that one, and then the other, the well,
Yeah, Montezuma's
Montezuma
well.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, those are, and the ones up north are very different because they're sort of spread out. There's a road that you kind of go. It's in like a lava field because there's an eruption years and years ago, and then that kind of made the soil really fertile for growing food. And so but they're sort of isolated pueblos along this area. They're not built into the cliffs. They're kind of built out of the ground, so they're a bit different than
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
Mesa Verde ones in Montezuma, but very cool, very cool.
Yeah. 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 The Mesa Verde, they're like that too, where they have the progression, right? They're the ones that are in the pits, and then they have the ones that are in the, yeah.
Into the cliffs. Yeah, those are huge. These aren't quite that big, but these are more a little
Can
bit.
you go in them or
Chocolate.
not?
What's that?
Can you go in those or
Yeah.
not? You
Yep,
can.
go in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another great one is Chaco Canyon in New
Yes.
Mexico. That one's fantastic. Way bigger
Yeah.
than this one, but this one's really beautiful. It's a different color kind of too. The bricks are
Oh.
sort of reddish color. Or not, they're not really bricks, but the stones are sort of a reddish color, and
Okay.
they're it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Those are, I always find them fascinating. So what do you like about being an architect?
There's so much. Wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. But I think what I chose residential architecture because of the people and the connection to people. I'd done, like I mentioned, doing the co-op and stuff. I'd worked at a larger firm doing much bigger buildings, and it felt a little disconnected from the end user because we were mostly
Mhm.
working for the company that was creating the project, and it felt very sort of impersonal to me. Usually there was sort of a financial aspect of it or something that was the main driver, not necessarily the experience of the people in the space. And so I also worked at a residential firm, and I really liked how connected the homeowners and the architects would get. And there's a very personal relationship. So that's the thing that I love the most about it. And then sort of the outcome of that is helping to shape those people's lives. It's really cool. Now we've been doing this for 15 years, and we can see kids and families grow through the homes and that kind of stuff, and it's really cool to see. So we've stayed friends with a lot of those people. So to me, that's the fun part, is just that sort of personal connection and seeing the outcome of and the experiences and how it sort of changes their life living in the spaces that we can help design for them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, I like it because it's so, you can literally, design and build the house in 2 years. It's like which for me, I mean, it's like I mean, it's not like it's instant gratification because
Right.
it isn't. It's
Right.
definitely a process, and sometimes it takes way longer than other times. But I definitely like, and then I like to be there at all phases. I mean, it's like I like to, it's kind of developing through the whole thing. So you're working with the client, and then, like we're full service architects, and kind of people say like, oh, are you going to be? I'm like, no, I'm going to be with you for the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a 2 year plus relationship, and yeah, you
mhm.
get relatively close with people, and there's also a lot more customization, at least in, what we do. I know there's some more production type homes and stuff, but doing custom homes, like, I think it stretches your mind a little bit more. It's less code based and it's more client based.
Mhm.
Um, and so having that sort of diversity of stuff helps keep it interesting. Like, we're not sort of just churning out the same thing over and over. We're able to kind of really dig into to people and place, and try to find something that is special for both.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I like to do the interiors too. And I know that there's a lot of interior designer that are like, oh, I can do the interior and I can do this, and I can do that. And I'm like, no, wait a second, wait a second. I mean, I like, like I like to do that too.
Right.
So, I'm more than happy if somebody can bring a project to me if they want me to do the architecture also. But
Right.
and I mean, so many of those things. I mean, when I look at it, it's like an electrical plan is not just an electrical plan. It's not just it's like very. I mean, I'm like laying out the the building systems along with it. It's like I'm designing with those building systems in mind, and where I want, like, duct work or no ducts, or like where thing, in order to be able to like hide those,
Right.
like hide those things or make them part of the concept.
Hmm.
And then also, the exterior and the interior are more cohesive.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, it's like, no, I don't want to move a window because this is the way this is the way I designed it. And I
Yeah.
was already, thinking of how the person was going to be using that space, and we've gone through it with the client. And, this is kind of the way that
Yeah.
this is my process. It
Right.
doesn't have to be everybody's process. I mean, I know there's a lot of residential architects out there that are even here. I went to a dinner with a rep, and I was saying, oh, how many of you guys are doing the interiors, and it's like a lot of them, that are doing a lot of work in town are like, oh no, I like stay in my, I know to stay in my lane or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, well, maybe I should be charging way more money now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
we prefer to do the interiors too, because I agree. And
Mhm.
even most of the like, even like the hardscaping and a lot of the landscape,
Oh yeah.
the schematic landscape, and
Yeah.
because to us it all flows as one. I think it's really kind of not ideal to just say, like, okay, we're gonna do the shell, and then you do the inside, and someone does outside the shell, and then oftentimes you just get sort of a disjointed thing, and then there's a singular budget, and that where's the budget going, right? Is it
Yeah.
going to the shell? Is it going to, and when we can do all three, we can kind of refine it to try to make sure that that sort of 1 + 1 = 3 mindset of what we're doing in harmony is going to
Mhm.
make something better than the price of just these individual elements. It's way harder to do when you have an interior designer wanting to do their own thing, and other people involved. It gets a little bit trickier. Not that it's impossible. We've worked with some interior designers. It's turned out great.
Mhm.
But yeah, generally we prefer to do it all as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some people, they've looked at my work like, oh, this is totally different. I said, well, they're different clients.
Right. It's a
It's
different
like,
person.
yeah. It's,
So if it looks all the same, it's probably not good. It's
yeah.
probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I was looking the other day at these. I'm doing these four houses, and the owner wanted them in this certain style, and that's what they are. But I looked and I said, why? I'm like, why? I said, is this really a fence? Am I getting this right? This is really a fence that's dying in to the middle of the elevation. And I said, did you really do that? I mean, like, why? And they're like, oh, well, they wanted a bigger yard over there. And I'm like, that this fence is like dying. I'm like,
Right.
where do you ever see that? And I said, there's nowhere where you would have a fence, the front of the house, and then you have a fence like coming out of the middle of the elevation,
Right.
And I mean, it was funny because like the civil and even the landscape was kind of saying, well, I'm like, I'm redoing this. I said, I will show you exactly, and me verbally describing it was still, they just still were not getting it,
Right.
and then I'm like, forget it. I said, I'll do the plan of the way they'll still end up with the yard. And I said, but there won't be a fence coming out of the middle of the, because nobody wants that,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's I think that's where the architect's real skill set is engineers are coming from a place of a rule book, essentially, right? That's essentially what they're doing. And they're still designing with it, of course, but I think the architecture was sort of our broader sense of looking at a variety of different things. Where we could sort of come in is they want a yard. What is the thing that they want? But then how do we reverse engineer to get to like the best solution to solve that? Because oftentimes it's like, oh well, yeah, obviously we just put a fence here. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't work for this thing, and that doesn't. And there's like there's a ripple effect, and so you can, and it's so easy to tell.
Exactly.
You can
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
easily tell homes that were designed by this sort of 1+1+1+1+1, where it's like, oh, I want this and I want this and I want, and you can see them. It's immediate. They can see them. It's like
Yeah.
nobody thought about, is there a way to sort of, work these together in a way that's more cohesive and streamlined, and there's benefits of a variety of different scales. It's just like, oh, I want this and I want this. And it's like, let's just add it in, and that's where you get those kind of just box.
And then some landscape architects said, well, we can just put planning over here. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I said, do you ever like I said what I said, like Frank Lloyd Wright saying you can just hide an ugly building with landscaping? I said it's not ugly. It's like you're just totally putting this fence in.
And depending on where you're building, and some of the climates we've worked in, we've heard that, and then they'll plant something that's about 6 inches tall and be like, all right, in 10 years this will block the thing that you wanted it to block. You know what I mean? That's just like, that's not a real, if it lives, it'll in 10 years it'll
Yeah.
be,
Yeah. Yeah. That, and then the people two doors down who like their backyard, luckily they never listen to me, or maybe they did. I doubt if they listen to my podcast. Anyway, their backyard is like lit up like Tivoli Gardens. I mean, no lie, it is so bright. I'm glad that I don't live next door to them and there's still like some distance, because it would bother me, and so in the front now they've like kind of done all this landscaping too, but then on the parkway they've got like 20 lights on this parkway, and I'm like, good luck with that. People walk their dogs up the
yeah, yeah.
and all of the plants, right? Like they're putting in the plant, but they're so squished. I said there's plus that's in your parkway, so people are just going to be walking through it all the time, and then there's the plants are too close together.
Mhm.
It's like they need room. I mean, I'm not a landscape architect, I can tell you that, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, right? I don't know whether you have neighbors that will say, oh, do you think that you like, what do you think? Like, can you give me your opinion? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll give you one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went in and it's about their bathroom, and I'm sure that they probably just did it without even, right, like they did it without a plan or something. They just probably just did it, and their thing was like, oh, we're going to do the front yard now, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because whatever, if that's what you want to spend the money on, it's like, I don't care. Right? I don't
Yeah.
care.
It's their
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
It's their house, right? It's
Yeah.
their, yeah. So I just went in and kind of said like, okay, you could do this, you could do this, and I said, and if you want me to say anything else, you're gonna have to sign a contract and give me and give me and give me this. And she's like, oh, well, how much? And I said, I kind of told her, and she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's what it is,
Right.
That's what it's not free.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's value to it, and you're gonna have to pay me.
Yeah.
Are you a fellow or not? Like, as far as fellowship? Okay. So I don't need to ask you the fellowship question, but so what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
It's a really interesting question. It changes a little bit, but I think we've sort of, that we've been doing this for 15 years and stuff, I think we have a little bit more of a idea, and it kind of goes back to our mission. For me, it's about connection, and even radical connection of, for so long, basically since 1920s industrial revolution, we've essentially been disconnecting from nature at that time, and then in the past 30 plus years disconnecting from each other with the advent of the internet and all that sort of stuff. And so for me, the future is sort of, the past has been too much about control, in my opinion, in terms of controlling spaces and controlling people and controlling nature. And how can we, create work that comes from sort of letting go of that control, and embracing that design reconnects us to the land, to each other, to a deeper sense of purpose. And we have a variety of global challenges that we're dealing with, climate and mental health and social division and all this sort of stuff. I think architecture is uniquely positioned to respond, not with fear, but with hope. To because we tend to fear what we don't know, and we built a world that has created this otherness, separating us from nature and separating us from each other. And when we're disconnected, we just simply care less, right? If you're disconnected from something, you just care less. It's not anything negative about that person. It's just, it's hard to care about things, and if you're disconnected, you care less. And so,
yeah,
I think if we can, to improve the world around us, we need to reconnect people, design to restore those connections, so that we see ourselves as part of the systems that sustain our world and make life worth living here, and connecting to other people. And I think that'll solve a lot of those issues. And for me, that's the future. Is sort of, originally started with shelter of like, caves and getting out of the weather and all this sort of stuff, right? That's kind of where it started. Is we had to protect ourselves from the environment, right? We had to protect ourselves from other people as well. But I feel like it's almost gone too far, where we're not connected at all to our surroundings. We're in air conditioned places. It could be whatever temperature outside. I have no clue. It could be whatever time outside. I could have whatever furnishings and decor. I could be anywhere in the world and have anything I want, right? And so to me, that lack of connection to where we are and to who we're with and who our neighbors are with, or like you mentioned, and that sort of stuff in those conversations, I think it's really important to have those. I think it's important to have diversity and, have a neighbor that's doing something different than someone else, and have those conversations, because those are easy, low risk conversations that help us learn how to deal with people with other opinions and other lifestyles and other ideas at a low risk thing, so that when we have these big world issues, that it's not such a divisive thing, and that we can, be a little bit more empathetic and stuff. So I think the future of architecture is sort of getting back to that. Like, how do we not look at just creating buildings, but creating experiences where we're connecting back to people and places?
yeah. I mean, my kids were not allowed to watch anything except for public television. I mean, obviously they and then there was a time that we didn't have a TV at all because they had broken it. I had like left to go pick up something, and I came back, and one of my kids is like running out of the house. And it's like, it's like, and it turned out that the big crisis was that his sister had gone to step up on top to like put right, my kids are older, like I said, so to put a video cassette in,
Yeah.
and it was on wood shelving that was all movable, right?
Sure.
And she had stepped on it and flipped the whole TV down on the floor, and it had smashed on the floor. And and it was a couple days before my birthday. So they were asking like, oh, so do you want a TV for your birthday? And I said, no, I don't want a TV for my birthday. He said, I'll be happy with never having a TV again. And we didn't get another TV until maybe, I don't know, like a few years ago we got it. But it's still, we're like not, and people were asking like, oh, are your kids, like, are they disconnected? I'm like, what? I said, you can stream everything. And I said, they seem like totally normal kids. And when my daughter went away to school, she was kind of laughing because she was a social work major, and one of her classes was all about, it's this book, I'll put it in the blog or whatever, about is it the child in the woods or something? It's all about like bringing kids back to nature.
Yeah.
And that was, and then she was kind of like laughing, and she's like, oh, I finally get what you were trying to do. And I'm like, oh yeah, see, there was some method to my madness of doing stuff. And people will say like, oh, were your kids big gamers? And I'm like, no. I said, I mean, they would play like at somebody else's house, but we never had a Nintendo. We never, and I mean, you meet the like totally normal kids,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of always, when we went on vacation, we would go, to see architecture, we'd go to see relative, go to see architecture. So I think that there's all about, kind of so that we would always eat dinner at the table, which these are kind of like these, things. And so, I know some people when you're when you're designing a house, like, oh, well, we don't really need, it's like we don't have a dinner, like we don't need a place for a dinner table because nobody uses the dinner table. It's like we're always, and I'm like, okay, but I think that sometimes you just have to say, like, okay, well, you know, like I think it's good to at least have, like, even if you're never gonna like, let's have a dining area or a dining room anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Even if you think that, or even if you think like, oh, we just need this little area or whatever for it because nobody ever eats there, or we'll eat at the bar, or, but again, that kind of sets up, a different dynamic, even as how you're sitting at a bar as opposed to a table. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and even if they're not dinner people, it's important to bring up the question of like, if they say something like that, you could say like, well, then how do you connect with
Yeah.
your children, with your friends,
Yeah.
with your family?
Yeah.
And then let's put more into that. If maybe they're, people that love to barbecue outside and,
Yeah.
play cornhole or whatever it is, right? And it's like, maybe
Mhm.
let's try to, foster that
Those
ability to,
connections. Yeah.
to have connections. So whatever way
Yeah.
is the way. We don't necessarily have to be rooted in this is the way that we do things, but like let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's find out how you connect with people. Let's try to
Mhm.
make that. And then the same with nature. How can we bring it into a part of your everyday life where you're very aware of where you are, what time it is, what season it is, all that kind of stuff. Like I think
Mhm.
that's just something important to in this world where so much is digital and virtual of having that grounding element that kind of gives us our identity and our sense of place and you
Yeah.
know um, encourages that connection.
Yeah. And actually going to places.
Yeah, for sure. That too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Not just seeing.
Exactly. It's very, very different
Yeah.
going to a
Yeah.
place than seeing a photo of something. And particularly now with AI and, all that sort of stuff of what is real anymore, right? Because you can make very real, unreal stuff. And so I think having that tactility, not losing the beauty of our other senses is critical.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm good. Yeah, it was a pleasure chatting with you, and
Yeah.
nice
Yeah. It's great
running
chatting
into
with you
you at
too.
the event, the Dwell event the other night.
Yes. Yes. And so did you want to speak about, you can speak about that. I
Well,
didn't
that
really
was yeah, that was just a nice event Dwell put on. They invited us to come speak at a couple other architects and landscape architects from
Mhm.
Arizona and talk about mostly the desert environment and sort of how we design in the desert, and so it's always nice to see. And it was at a house that um, someone had recently redone up in a sort of beautiful area north
Mhm.
of Phoenix, and so it was just a really nice night, and I thought a pretty good turnout in conversation.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was nice. I thought it was nice. Yeah. I'd like to see like more. I wonder if they're going to do more of those.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah,
Yeah. And I didn't realize that that was the editor in chief from Dwell because he's pretty young, I
yeah,
guess. I mean, I don't know how old he really is, but he like
yeah,
seemed like he was pretty young. I didn't realize he was editor in chief, but that's good.
yeah,
That's good. I always liked Dwell.
yeah.
Um, Okay. Oh, and I know what I wanted to ask just about you kind of were on social media pretty early. I mean, as far as Instagram and kind of that. And what are your kind of like marketing strategies? I know that we went with context and clarity, you kind of laid out some marketing strategies that you have, or just kind of like the way that you do that. And you don't have to give me all your
Sure.
secrets, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're very open about that, and so much has changed. Honestly, if I were to go back and look at that context and clarity talk that I gave, I bet a lot of that stuff doesn't apply anymore because
Mm.
the world of marketing and social media and stuff changes so frequently and has had some major changes over the last couple of years in particular. And I'm sure people
Yeah,
have.
with the analytics and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
they're
and
kind of
the algorithm
guiding people.
has
Yeah,
changed so
yeah.
much. So yeah, I mean, we still post on Instagram and that sort of stuff, and We're going to be doing some YouTube content for the house, the Fox and Kit house in Sedona that I mentioned. We've been recording the construction process all the way through, and we're going to
Mhm.
start releasing some of that stuff as the house gets closer to opening. And so, yeah, marketing it's definitely changed. We still love the online environment just because it's where most people get their information, So online publications, that's probably the biggest one.
Mhm.
And then yeah, social media. We do a little bit of, we're not like, I wouldn't say that heavy. My social media time is actually very light relative to the posting and that sort of stuff. We try
Yeah.
to post once a
Yeah.
week. And
Yeah, once a week. Yes, because I think that that's like kind of what, I mean, I was like thinking, oh, he must be on all the time or something, but you're really posting like once a week, and
yep.
then are you reposting like other things from
I'll
it, or
occasionally put some
like,
stories up. If you
okay,
look at my average time per day, it's probably less than 15 minutes a day on social
okay,
media. I check it,
uh-huh.
see if people have, when we get comments or something or messages, a lot of people message us asking us questions, so I answer those. Um, but I'm not much of a scroller. I don't really kind of scroll on those, so it's more just
Mhm.
to kind of interact with the people that are interacting with us. So, I
Mhm.
answer messages and comments and to the best of my abilities. And yeah, just we try to do, like I said, a post on our timeline once a week, and then we'll do stories based on the level of where stuff is at in construction. It's mostly kind of construction stuff because it disappears.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so we'll
yeah.
do that, and then yeah, so we don't spend a ton of time with it, but yeah, we're looking forward to rolling out some new stuff with this Fox and Kit project in Sedona. We're doing some different stuff there that will be kind of rolling out over the end of the summer and into the
Uh-huh.
opening and experimenting with some new stuff. But that's kind of our focus is the sort of experiential marketing, we'll say, of allowing people to live and stay in one of our places and have that experience.
And I mean, are you allowed to like? Is it going to be on like Airbnb or like some
Yes,
other
yeah, it'll
like
be open to the public
review?
for anyone
Okay,
to book, and
okay,
we'll have a website and we'll have all that kind of stuff, and people can book it and stay, and then we'll use it, for special events and that kind of stuff as well, for our
okay.
own purposes. But yeah, the intent is not necessarily to curate who's going there, but to let whomever wants to go there to experience it because there's a
Mhm.
much wider audience of people that we don't know, and would love to have that opportunity where someone can stay in sort of a intentionally designed piece of architecture as opposed to, like you said, just a random house that's been converted or something like that. You know, this is designed to be a very special experience, and I think it'll be nice to have just people sort of see the difference of what it's like staying at one of those homes versus
Yeah,
place that they've had.
yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's great. I'm going to stop the tape and then we'll close. But thank you so much, Kevin.
Of course, yeah, no problem. Yeah.